everybody. It's Cindy and Jeannie. Welcome to our coffee chat. My cup says, you can't make everyone happy, so concentrate on me.
I'll drink to that. Right.
Oh my gosh. So we are going to be talking about changing your life today, but you have to be ready to change.
You do. You have to be ready. And, one of the things that we get, and, this is going to be kind of a compressed one because we've got a lot going on in our lives. But the idea is, Cindy, we oftentimes cannot imagine or visualize what our life would be like if we got, if we moved, or if we got a new relationship or a new job or a puppy or whatever it is. But I had the most interesting talk with one of my clients the other day, and she has been divorced for 20 years, and she's got a nice life and has enough money, and she has 3 grown sons with their families, and they're all doing well. But she just has not had a relationship that's, anything that she wants in 20 years. So we were talking about that, and she was like, well, I am lonely, but I can't imagine, sharing my house with a man. And I can't imagine. I went, well, okay, let's just take this a step at a time, because the truth of the matter is you can either just stay where you are, the way you are, and accept it and get happy. Or you can break it down into bite-sized pieces and understand that things do change. But you don't have to change everything all at once. I mean, you don't have to meet a guy and immediately move him in your house. You build on your friendship and your spirituality and whatever is important to you. And I told her, I said, it reminds me of the story in the 5th chapter of John in the Bible about there was a pool in Jerusalem called the Pool at Bethesda. And what happened is that people who needed healing would come to the pool, and they would wait for the angel to, what they said, stir up the waters or trouble the waters. And the first person in would get healed. Well, there was this one guy, and they referred to him as a cripple. He could not walk. And every day for years, he would have his friends pick him up in this litter or this, stretcher, if you will, and carry him to the pool at Bethesda. And this became a way of life for him. And so, Cindy, he would just lie by the pool all day long. And then, he never did make it in the pool, and then they would carry him home. So one day Jesus shows up, that little troublemaker, and he never just healed people indiscriminately. He either had to be asked or he would ask them. So he went over and struck up a conversation with this guy and found out the guy was there every day and had been there every day and all of that. So Jesus looked at him and said, would you be healed? Busted. It was like, okay, yeah, I would. And so Jesus put his hand on him and healed him. Now, we've all heard this part of it is, Cindy, Jesus said, take up thy bed and walk. We've heard that. Well, that's where that comes from. So Jesus was saying things are different now. So you don't have to wait for your friends to come pick you up and carry you home. Pick up your bed and go home. Well, I just have this idea in my head. It's kind of like, Lucy and Ricardo, Ricky Ricardo going, Lucy, I'm home, so he walks in and his wife is like, what are you doing here? Did your friends bring you home early? And he was like, no. He said, this guy, Jesus, came and healed me, and I'm not crippled anymore. Well, you can imagine that just threw everything into a tailspin, because all of a sudden his days have to be different. And his wife doesn't have to do everything around the house. And he may have to get a job. And he has to give up the story about, I'm waiting for this and I'm waiting for that, right? So what I see, oftentimes we get into our stories about like, well, I just can't do this. And the reality is, I always like to say, don't say I can't. The reality is you can. So the truth word is, I won't do this. I won't do this.
Right.
But if we want our lives to change, Cindy, it's one thing to talk about it. And I know that later in a week or two, we're going to talk about your experiences and taking action. But you have to take action. And you have to understand that things will change. And you have to be ready for those changes. So how do you do that? You give up your story. You get clear on what it is that you would like. Like, I don't know if this guy ever really thought about, like, what if I were actually able to get into the water when the angel was troubling the water and I was healed? I'm not, why, I can't get in his head, but I never picked up anything out of that story and said, well, here's what I would do. He just got into this whole thing, and his friends would pick him up and he'd be by the pool and then they'd take him home. And so my whole thing and the conversation you and I had the other day around this is, are you ready for change? Are you ready for change? And if so, what could that possibly look like? Now, you moved last year from Texas to Florida. Your life has changed. All of a sudden you're around your kids, your grandkids, you're around new people, you're doing music in a different way with different people. I moved and we sold our house and moved downtown into our winery. And so we're downtown. We're not at the ranch. We're not at the house in town. We're right downtown. And so you have to say, what does my life look like? Well, what I did, and I think you did too, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when I started thinking about moving into our winery and being right downtown with no neighbors, we're in a commercial area, which I love, and we're only 3 blocks away from the river, and I mean, it's great. But I had to say, what's it going to be like? What am I going to do in this new place that I am not doing now? So that included, like, I love music, and so I wasn't playing music. So now I've got music. I've got a front patio that I'm exposed to a lot of people. So, my question is, if you say you want your life to change, how does that look? And what would you say to somebody?
When it comes to change, that change, just as you said, comes with all of the different effects. So with the change, you get this, and this, and this, and this. And some of those things aren't expected.
No.
Yeah. But the thing is we can change at any point, any time. You can change your job, you can change your mate, you can change your friends, you can change where you live, you can change what you eat for breakfast every day. You can change. We have the power to change anything in our life, as you said. What gets in the way is our brain and our thoughts. That's what gets in the way, because then you start over analyzing. Well, I don't know, and because a lot of us are in a comfort zone right now, and it might not be.
Don't you think we're creatures of habit?
Right, and when you're in a comfort zone, even if you have a bad leg, you've learned how to live with the bad leg, make it comfortable. And again, so you go get knee surgery, you go to therapy, or do you? It's painful. Does this mean I'm going to walk? Some people do, some people don't. And major things come along in our lives every single day. We have somebody close to us that we just found out is going to be battling with cancer right now. And it just throws a loop and a kink in everything in your thoughts. You're going along your day, you go to the grocery store, then all of a sudden you get a piece of news like that, and then it consumes your thoughts. So sometimes change comes to us involuntarily. Just something will, for instance, now I live in Florida, and when Hurricane Ian came and devastated everybody, or all the tornadoes that are happening, all the different things that are happening in our world right now, that's uninvited change. That's uninvited change. Those are more like challenges. So like you said, I think that you have to be ready for the change, not just voluntary change, but also involuntary change, because we never know what life's going to bring. You've dealt with that with Joe, sometimes getting sick yourself. All of a sudden everything changes, and then you resolve it, and then you get back to tick-tock, tick-tock, and then something else happens that's big.
Well, and you bring up a really important point because we don't always know. I mean, sometimes we get to choose, and sometimes we get to choose what our response is going to be in response to whatever that big event is. But, like I was telling this client, and she was like, well, I just don't know how this is going to happen, and da da da. And I went, you know what? The how is none of your business, and neither is the why. The only thing that is your business is the what. What do you want? If this guy at the Pool of Bethesda was like, well, how's that going to happen? I've been coming here for years and my friends pick me up and I'm just here and I'm chatting away and I'm having a good time. And why should I change? Well, the only reason for change would be, what do I want? Now, if you want to stay stuck every day and do the same old, okay, you can stay stuck. But if you don't want to stay stuck, if you really do want things to be different, get clear on what that looks like.
Exactly, because we have the power to change. We also have the power to deal with change. And when those challenges come, that's when you know your strength. So the older we get, the more, in my opinion, the more powerful we become, because those things that were mountains are now those little molehills. You just step right over them because we've experienced it before, and you get over it. And
and you bring up a great point here is, and many times I've thought about this and I've talked to people about this too, Cindy, as a coach, saying, the great thing is you've been through change. And your ability to handle that is 100%. You're here. So you know that you can handle change. It's going to be different, but it is definitely change. And are you up to the task? Absolutely. You've always done it, and you may not know all the mechanics. You may not know exactly what's around the corner, but if you just let go of your fears, and you just say, okay, here's what I want. Here's what I want my life to look like. Well, for me, what I wanted with my life is to come into a place of being where I have the ability and the means and the place to really invite people into my life and have, wonderful experiences. And that's where I am. With you, you wanted to be with your kids and your grandkids. That's the what. And then what you found along the way is this whole new group of people and ways to do your music and ways to express yourself. So there are always hidden little gems in my experience, is that we don't know, but we do know that we're capable. So anyhow, we're going to wrap this up because we're trying to make these a little more bite-sized for people.
Right.
And and so, I would encourage people who are looking to change, well, I'd like to change my job. I'd like to change my life. One of the things that we talked about is one of our Bnow women ended up with like several people who worked for her and her husband in this company. They twisted off and they left, and some of them were family members. Okay. But I said, well, what do you want? And she was real vague. I just want someone who's got a good attitude. And I went, well, that's not enough. What do you want? And what does that person look like? And when she got clear, she immediately hired 3 people who are our Bnow women. And she was like, well, that was easy. And I was like, yeah, because you were focused on the what.
Right.
Anyhow, Cindy, I love our talks, and we'll be back next week, and we've got some more juicy things to talk about.
Right. Subscribe. Come follow us because we love you.
Go to beautifulnetworkofwomen.com. Check out our upcoming retreat at sea, October the 8th through the 14th. We are just filling up, and man, it is going to be. And we're also allowing human beings with Y chromosomes, otherwise known as men, to join us in this time. And we know we're just going to have a great time. So thank you, my friend. Love you.
Love you. See you next Monday.
Okay. Bye-bye.